Hey everybody, it is about 2:30 up here at my house. Some of you all asked me when I did the Bible study the other night, some of you all, I neglected to say I live in the Eastern time zone. So when it's 7 o'clock here, it's probably 8 o'clock in the next state over, then 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I kind of understand that now, and I understand why I should have posted the video. But I'm learning this stuff here. I haven't ever done things live much. My 6-year-old grandson in there probably knows more about it than me, just to be honest. But anyway, we are here. We're getting ready to make a blueberry crumble. And it's not going to be a big one now. This is going to be a smaller one. So if you want a big one, you're going to have to double this. Of course, I'll have probably enough crumble for a big one, but I'm just going to put what's left over in a Ziploc bag and keep it until I make the next one, because I don't want to make a big one today, because I know there's no way in the world I can get rid of a big one or eat it all. But anyway, I'm going to be putting the blueberries on first, and I'll get you started on that in just a second. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, instead of using fresh blueberries, I'm going to use some of my frozen blueberries. If you're using fresh blueberries, it doesn't make a bit of difference. It just takes a little bit longer to do the frozen blueberries, and I had plenty in my freezer, so I just decided to do it this way. And Kendra Rich from Kansas had sent me a private message the other night and asked if I would make one of these. And I said, sure. That's something that, we'll eat, and Evan can eat some of. So, yeah, I can go ahead and make it. But now I'm making a small one. So this is probably about an 8x8 pan. So just remember that's what you're making, 8x8. But I've got my blueberries already in the kettle over here, and I'm going to try to get this around to where you all can see what I'm doing. Now, when I'm on this side of my kitchen, it's a little bit harder to do. Let me move my stuff right here out of the way for a second. I'm trying to get my everything over here that I'm going to need, and I will try to get you closer to see what I'm doing. Now, this is my blueberries here. And I've got I'd say about 1.5 pints of blueberries. And these are good sized blueberries. They're big blueberries. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start these. I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner on, just a medium temperature. And I'm going to put 1/2 cup of sugar in with them. This little thing here holds 1/4 cup. It's measured on it. You can see it right there. So I'm going to put 1/2 cup of sugar. And then I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. Lemon juice helps bring out the flavor of the blueberries quite a bit. And you need some salt. So I'm going to show you about how much. About like that. It's probably about, let me get my spoon over here and I'll measure it. I know, though, that it's not, this is a 1/4 teaspoon. It's a little less than a 1/4 teaspoon. You can kind of see it there. So I put that in there. And I'm going to put 1/2 cup of water. Now, you don't want to put more water than that, because you don't want to make a big soup in your blueberries. You don't want that. But now I'm going to turn these up just a little bit. I'm going to watch them pretty close. And while that's heating up, I'm going to mix my cornstarch in some water, okay? You'll need about 3 big heaping teaspoons of cornstarch, okay? So let me get my cornstarch out here. And this is what I mean by a heaping teaspoon. And I've already got it on my shirt. Yeah, Lordy. Little less there. Now, I'm going to mix just enough water with this. I've got about 1/4 cup right there, maybe. And I'm going to try to mix this. I want it pourable. I think that's going to be enough. It's kind of hard to get stirred up, but you know, I think that's going to need just a tad bit more. And it doesn't take much. Yeah, that's okay. And you want that pourable. And when you start pouring this in, you're going to pour it in slowly, okay? And if you don't have some spatulas, some silicone spatulas, you need to invest in a couple. They're not that expensive. You can buy them on Amazon. I think I bought 8 like this. I think I got 8 like this for about $10 or $12. But these are really good. They don't destroy your fruit when you're trying to stir things around or stir things in it. So these are really good to have. Plus they're really handy, you know, just for a lot of things in the kitchen. And so now when it gets up to a boil, actually before it comes to an exact boil, you're going to start putting your cornstarch in. You don't want to cook it. We're just getting it to a hot enough that we can put in our cornstarch and get it thickened, as thick as we want it. This way you're in control of how thick it is. I like to do it this way. Some people will put cornstarch in their fruit and put it in the... I don't care for it that way. Sometimes you get big lumps of cornstarch, and I just don't care for it that way. But, you know, you're welcome to do yours however you want to. This is just how I do mine. But now, I've got my water in there. And I'm going to take my spatula. Let me get one. I kind of take my spatula to see if it's starting to heat up on the bottom. Let me get my oven on. Let me turn it on 375 and let it be preheating. Because once I get the blueberries done, so I've got them thick as I want them, then I'm going to put the... Now, I'm just trying to get the sugar incorporated a little bit. Just as soon as these get hot, when they start getting hot, you'll be able to tell. But you don't want to let it get into a full boil. You just don't want to do that. When you can tell it's starting to get hot, just kind of keep a better eye on it. Keep it on about medium heat where you can control things. Because when you pour this cornstarch in, you're going to turn it down even lower. You just want it to be good and hot. Almost boiling, but not really boiling. Okay? If that makes any sense. But I will be back in just a second. Okay. The berries are starting to... Let me get you over here where you can look at them. The berries are starting to... You can see that they're hot. And you can see that real purple... How the juice has really got purple on them. You can kind of see how purple that is. Okay. Now, it's hot enough now to go ahead and start putting in the cornstarch. And I'm going to start that right now. Now, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit because I don't want it to start boiling on me. And I'm just going to pour a little bit and stir it around. Then I'm going to pour a little bit more and stir it around. And I may have made too much cornstarch, but I'd rather have too much than to not have enough. And you kind of got to give that time to thicken up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to pour in a little bit more. Because this will be thick, but then when your blueberries cook in the oven, they still put off more juice. So it's going to thin up some. So you want to make sure you get it pretty thick here. I'm trying not to smash all the blueberries. And I did add just a little bit more lemon juice. You want to taste it sometimes because different blueberries have different sweetness levels. And This time I thought it needed just a little more lemon juice. You want it to kind of have a little bite. You don't want it to taste like lemon juice, but you know it needs a little bit. Now you can see this is starting to get kind of thick. It's starting to get thicker. Now I'm going to put just a little bit more of the cornstarch. And I'm going to hold it off the heat because sometimes it will stick. And we don't want it to stick. Okay. You can kind of see that it's getting thicker, kind of like a pie filling. You know, like if you've ever had canned pie filling, of course now this is thinner right now because it's hot. If it was cooled down, it would be thicker. This is probably thick enough. So we're gonna, right now though, we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of butter. This just gives it a good flavor, okay? Puts that kind of richness in it. And I'm going to turn the burner off, but that'll still stay warm and melt this for me. And I've had a stick of butter, salted butter, in the microwave melting in a bowl. So I've got it ready for the crumble. So you're going to need a stick of melted butter. There's some things you can kind of do while you're waiting on the blueberries to get warm. Okay, now I'm just going to set this right here. Now I'm going to go over here to the other side and we're going to make the crumble. Okay, now we're going to make the crumble. You're going to need a package of Betty Crocker oatmeal cookie mix. Now you can make it all homemade crumble if you want to, but I really like to add this to it. It works really good. Let me get my scissors out here. Cut this off and pour it in my bowl. Now, I like to add a little more oatmeal to it and some cinnamon. Let me get my measuring spoon over here. This is a half of a tablespoon. And that's about what I put in it. If you don't like as much cinnamon, or if you like more cinnamon, you can surely add it. And you're going to add about 5 tablespoons. Well, let's just do a half. About a half a cup. And we're going to use about a half a cup of flour. Not hardly. Maybe a 1/4 cup of flour. I'll put the recipe on. The main thing right now is just to watch. So you see how I do it. That's what she was concerned about. She was just not wanting to watch how to do it. So that's what we're doing today. I will post the recipe for this. So don't worry about the recipe right now. Let me get my little whisk here. And you want to kind of mix this up together. Make sure all your brown sugar the lumps are gone. Okay, let me get my butter. Let me see if it's melted enough. It's not hardly melted enough. I'm gonna let it melt just a little bit more. Let me get my oats. And here is my oats. Okay, here's my stick of melted butter. You can see I've got it. Can't hardly see it. That light bleaches it out. But I'm going to put in a 1/4 cup of oats and see how that looks. I can already tell it needs. So I put in a half a cup. Now I will kind of take my hands and kind of grind that up a little bit. If you like big clumps of oats, then don't do it. I mean, you can do it however you want to. Okay, now we're going to put in the butter. Let me get my fork. And I'll just pour all that butter in there. Now we're going to mix it up. Now, when I get it to that stage, I take my hands. I can tell more about it with my hands than I can with using the fork. Okay. Okay. Now, it just kind of makes up like a crumbly. You just want to make sure all of it's coated and it's kind of crumbly, okay? Now, I don't know if I'll use all of this on that small one, but I can take this and put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the refrigerator. And then when I get ready to use it or make another one, I can take this out, just leave it sitting on the counter and kind of warm up, and then kind of mix it up a little bit with my hands. If I want to add a little bit more to it to make a bigger one, I can do that. But this recipe right here will make a 9 by 13 pan. So if you want to make a big one with the crumble, yeah, you can. Just double the blueberries, double the sugar, double everything else. And I will write all this in the recipe, so don't worry about that right now, okay? The main thing is just watching and learning how to do it. That's flour, I think. A little flour ball. Let me rinse my hands off, guys. Okay, let me get my pan. Let's see. Find my pan over here. Okay, I buy these 8 by 8 pans. These are made by Fig Leaf, and they have a plastic top that goes on them. And I buy these, and when I make something in one of these though, especially something like a crumble, a cobbler, or something like that that can boil over, I always put a piece of aluminum foil under it in the oven to catch anything that wants to come over. Then all you got to do is lift out the aluminum foil, and you don't make a big mess out of the bottom of your oven. Okay, now we're going to pour in the blueberry stuff. I've got the rest of my... Let me get this out of the way here so you can kind of watch here a little closer. Okay, we're going to pour this in. Okay, now set this over in the sink. Now we're going to put the crumble on top. You just take your crumble and just kind of sprinkle it around. You don't want to cover up the edges completely. You want to leave a little room so that it can, what I call, breathe. So if it needs to burp a little bit, you know, it can. And this crumble is really some good stuff. If you've never had a crumble, you're just, and if you want to, you can mix in chopped pecans in this. A lot of times I do if I'm making it for here. But anyway, make sure you've got a good layer on this. Now, we're going to bake this in the oven on 375 degrees for about 25 minutes till that top starts getting golden brown. And if you want to melt just a little bit of butter and sprinkle over the top of it, that really helps it. Normally, I would probably put a little more butter in this because I made a big batch, but it won't hurt it the way it is. It's fine. Most of the time, this is the way they tell you to make crumbles. I just usually add a little bit more butter. But anyway, if you want to drizzle melt you a couple teaspoons of butter and just drizzle over the top of it before you put it in the oven, that will make it a little crunchier if you like crunchy. So that's why you do that. But anyway, so I'm going to put mine in the oven. I'm going to put my aluminum foil under it, and I'm going to bake it for at least 25 minutes. And I'm going to check it at 25 minutes to see if the top is getting kind of golden brown. You want that top to get a golden brown. So I will be back in just a minute. Okay, ladies and gents, this is why you put the aluminum foil under it, because you can see it bubbled plumb over the edges. And I'm going to get this out right now and let you look at it. Okay, here is the crumble, guys. And it's all done. And you can see where it has kind of burped around the edges and the filling has kind of ran over. But that's typical of making a crumble or a cobbler. I hope you all will practice and try to make somebody you love a good crumble or a cobbler or something. And I will post the recipe with a picture of this, okay? And I'm going to tell you, this is how to make an 8x8, okay? But I hope that helped. Just let me know if you make a crumble. Put a picture of it on here. Let us see what it looks like. I hope you all have a blessed day and do something good for somebody else. We love you all. Take care.